All right, folks, welcome back to the Chiropractic Podcast. I have got the one and only Daniel Carroll of Secret Crowds Marketing Agency. I'm sure you guys have heard Daniel before. I've had him on the show a few times, but this guy is not only very talented in the marketing world, and I think you're going to find today's episode very interesting. We're going to talk about leads, what they are, how to nurture them, and how does it, how to consistently get results in the chiropractic field. And the thing I was going to say about Daniel is not only is he very talented when it comes to his marketing agency, he's very passionate when it comes to chiropractic. He has a love for it. I'll let him speak for himself. But he's been doing this for years. And Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
It's always good.
Yeah.
I know this will be good. The producer will be telling us, hey, you've only got 5-10 minutes. You got to wrap this up.
We're just getting started.
And Daniel and I, we just introduced ourselves.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about what I think. I think it's comical that we're going to have this episode with me and you, because we're going to talk about marketing, which is every chiropractor's favorite subject is how do I get more new patients, more new patients. Where my end of the spectrum lies, and if I have a firm, I know that it's a whole lot easier to keep business than it is to get business. And I don't want to be on the on the new patient carousel, the carousel of chaos, because that creates burnout and my side of it is building self-sustaining, stress-free, referral-based practices, which I know you have experienced and working with a lot of our members in Aligned. You've seen that, and it makes your job a whole lot easier because your marketing replicates itself, right? When you get them 30 new patients, all of a sudden, because of the Aligned system, they're getting 30 referrals.
Exactly. And
that same dollar produced 60 new patients rather than the original 30. But anyway, point is we're going to dive into marketing and do a show on that. And I think everyone will learn something new today, because it's not about, you can't do this nonsense. It's kind of just run rampant through the profession of, you're going to hire this marketing agency and they're going to, you give them $500 package and they run a bunch of social media ads and they tell you they got you 300 leads when they really got you 300 clicks.
Yeah.
And did those people ever walk through the front door of your office? And when they did were they high quality, and were they qualified new patients? That is a dangerous way to try to run a marketing, have that as your marketing strategy, and be successful on a consistent basis. So you wanted to talk about the easy lead, right?
Yeah.
I'll let you do.
I want to talk about. I want to talk about leads, managing the expectations of them, and understanding where they are and how to nurture them. We've got cold leads, warm leads, and hot leads, right? So you got a cold lead, which is somebody who you're basically cold calling on Facebook or Google. You're bombarding their search, whatever they're searching, and you're just putting your ad and your
message.
Yeah, your message for your chiropractic clinic in their face, right? So that's a cold lead. That I don't know what to expect from that, right? Then you got your warm leads. Your warm leads are the people that are interested, maybe not ready, maybe they're just inquisitive, trying to learn more about it. Maybe they're struggling with headaches, struggling with migraines, insomnia, allergies, and they've never really thought to seek chiropractic treatment as a remedy for some of those issues that they're having, regardless of the issue. I just named a few. And then you have a hot lead. This is an important one. A hot lead is an appointment. A hot lead is somebody who has booked an appointment for your clinic. Okay. If they're not on your books, then they're a warm lead or they're a cold lead. Okay. So somebody who's booked an appointment with you, I'm going to see this appointment, right? That's not a patient yet. That person is not a patient yet. You still have to see them as a hot lead, because if you don't, you won't give them the attention that they need, or I believe that you won't give them the attention that you need, because they're already an appointment. We need more appointments. Oh, well, let's get these in the door first. Let's make sure their experience is flawless. Run them through your system and get them to become a patient, right?
You just said hot lead is an appointment that walks through the door, and then you whether you know it or not, you said into the system, and that's a critical piece to this, because you can blow through a marketing budget, and if you don't have a system and a process to take them through, because it's Daniel's job to find the interest, to find the lead and get them to make contact. But for example, if they make an appointment online, if you have that capabilities, but this, marketing from marketing to quote unquote sales. I hate to use the term sales in a chiropractic practice. Conversion.
Mm-hmm.
You stop judging the marketing the moment they walk through the door. And if they've contacted you, what if they picked up the phone and called you?
Right.
And you're not routinely maintaining, or you have a process, a system, a repeatable process that's going to give you a consistent result, they're going to frustrate the heck out of you.
Yeah, they're going to call me and say, "Oh, I didn't have a qualified lead." And and if you know me, you'll know, if you're a human being, you're a qualified lead for a chiropractor, whatever your case may be.
But I was just pointing out how marketing has to tie to system.
Yeah.
And that's when you were doing your introduction, I heard that. I'm like, well, so many people don't have that. They don't have that what I call front desk, or that's chiropractic assistant. If they're mishandling the calls or mishandling the onboarding, the patient's never sitting in the consultation room or your exam room or whatever your process is.
Yeah, or
you're losing a lot of business, but you're spending the same marketing budget.
Yeah.
And then judging your marketing agency. And then it kind of goes all the way back to so many chiropractors these days. They're trying to be the marketing expert, and they're trying to be the marketing expert and the chiropractor. They're trying to do all of it.
Yeah.
And they're blowing through all this money.
And how would they feel if I adjusted my own back or neck real quick? Mm-hmm. I'm not qualified to, adjust my spine, just like most chiropractors. I don't know about most, but a lot of chiropractors aren't qualified to run their own marketing campaigns as well. You got to have somebody that's passionate about that just as much as you're passionate about being a chiropractor. Because if not, you've got all these agencies and they're promising conversions and lifetime patients. And how? You don't even know what the experience is like. If the chiropractor doesn't have, a trained office staff that understands their vision, and whether it's a script or whatever it is, at least an understanding of this is a protocol, right? This is how we do things, right? If that isn't in place, I don't care how much money you're going to spend in ads. You're not going to get people that are bought into it, because you haven't figured out that yet. You haven't figured out how to keep patients. And advertising's great, and advertising will produce new patients if it's done rightly or done correctly with the right strategy and the right campaign. But it cannot and it will not produce referrals, and it will not produce longevity. Because if you're just referring somebody, if I am, as a marketing director, am just running ads on behalf of a chiropractor who doesn't have their system in place, I don't even want that client.
Well, and that's why you love working with the line
members.
I do, yeah. And that's how you and I originally met.
Yeah.
Is Daniel, is working with all these chiropractors, but he kept coming across these people, these certain offices, and their conversion rate was off the charts. Their referrals were off the charts, and you finally said, "How are you doing this?" Well, I'm a member of Aligned, and then finally you literally like came in. Quietly came to one of our conferences and said, I got to know about this company.
Yeah.
But you're right. You combine that kind of system that's going to get the retention, the longevity, the referrals, the compliance, and you're going to do it in an easy, non-stressed, very efficiently. And you tie that with somebody that knows what the heck they're doing when it comes to true marketing. Remember, if I can say this, and I'll throw it back to you, we're here to talk about marketing and understanding marketing and leads, and what is a lead and how do you nurture a lead. But first and foremost, you got to know what marketing is. Marketing, the first word, the basis of that word is market. You got to understand your market. You got to understand your community. You got to understand your demographics. Who are you trying to talk to? Who you're trying to connect with? That's what your market is. And you got to be entrenched in your market. You can't just be trying to build a practice off of one or two vehicles of, online marketing, Google only. You got to be a member of that community.
Yeah.
And you got to get you got to get connected through the various components. And we can talk about that. I'll leave that to you to get into it. But that's what knowing your market is, being connected, founded in your market. And then marketing, understand what marketing is. Marketing is getting the right message to the right person at the right time to fill the right need.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're trying to get the wrong person and then you're trying to get the right person at the wrong time, you're missing the boat, right? You're not going to get you've got to find the right person, get the right message to the right person at the right time. And you got to do it in the right vehicle. I'm leaving that out of there too, because some people aren't going to respond to email.
Yeah.
They're not going to respond to direct mail. But if you come down here into Florida, certain times of the year, there's areas of this state direct mail is going to be your key component because that demographic is here.
Yeah.
And that's what they're used to responding to. They're not on TikTok, right? So, if I could say this, and I'll throw it back to you, we are in Florida, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a fishing nut, and running a practice and building a practice and getting the new patients is much like fishing. But doctors need to understand that in fishing, if you're not a fisherman, you might not know this, but 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water. You got to know where to fish.
Yeah.
Right? And then what if I was going into Target and I'm targeting a particular kind of fish, and yet I keep catching the wrong kind of fish because I'm using the wrong bait?
Yeah.
Yeah? Or the wrong presentation. So you can sometimes get on a spot where it has a lot of fish, but I don't have the fish I'm looking for.
Right.
If I'm looking for snapper and I'm not catching anything but, I don't know, redfish, great, but they might not be in season.
Yeah.
So the point is, that doesn't do me any good. I might have some fun catching, but it's not going to be effective. Kind of getting off track and not giving you the microphone, but
no, that's right. Fishing is a great metaphor. It's a great analogy to use for marketing because it's the same exact thing. If you don't understand, first of all, what you're fishing for, right? That's step one, right? So although yes, chiropractic is for everybody. Do you have a specialty? Are you upper cervical, or do you have something that you like to specialize in, pediatric or anything like that? You have to understand that if you're a pediatric, right, chiropractor, well, I don't know too many babies that have phones, so you're gonna have to find a vehicle to access what the parent's interest is. So now you're gonna have to expand your demographic to the parents of children that would, bring their kids in to see a chiropractor. You have to understand all these different elements in order to bring patients in. That's what you do as if you own a marketing company. That's your job, right? When it comes to, being a chiropractor and knowing what to do, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to navigate those waters, right? Because are they on TikTok? Are they on Facebook? Is it Google ads? Is it mailers? Is it newspaper ads? What is it, right? Well, it's a combination of many different things. But first of all, you have to figure out what's your budget. Do you have a marketing budget? And if you don't, step one, can you afford to advertise? Can you afford not to advertise, right? Why are you advertising?
It would be foolish not to have a marketing budget.
100%.
And I know we've talked about this on other platforms, and we've had a lot of different conversations over the years. But even Coca-Cola, every company has a marketing budget, and it should average around 5 to 10% of your gross revenue. All right. So just right there, if you're a practice out there and you're doing $25,000 a month, are you setting aside somewhere between $1,250 to $2,500 a month for marketing purposes, and putting them in the hands? And don't just go, okay, well, I spend $1,000 on Google and I spend $500.
That's not how that works.
No,
it's got to be strategically spent. It can't. First of all, you can't sign up for some package deal and we're gonna get you this and get you that. Okay, where do those numbers come from? Are these people looking at your community? Are they looking at the household incomes of your community? Are they going to be able to increase your patient average, or do they even know what that is, and can they get that for you? It's a lot of elements that go into your marketing budget. It's not just give somebody X amount of dollars, 5 to 10% of your income, and that's going to generate.
Well, most chiropractors aren't running by the rules of putting 5 to 10% aside.
Not in my experience.
That's right. What they do, they get to the end. They made $8,000 that month, and they're pulling $8,000 out, and there's nothing left in the kitty. 5 to 10%. Are you running a business? If you're running a business, then there should be that much set aside, and more than likely should be spent. Now, there's different types of marketing, and we've talked about that as well. Understand, just because you're setting aside 5 to 10% for your marketing budget, well, what kind of practice do we have? Are we looking for direct response marketing, or are we looking at, you like to call it branding marketing, I call it market saturation.
Sure.
But it's not, I'm going to spend that $700 and I'm expecting a blank number of new patients to come from that. That's market saturation. That's the park benches and the billboards and, community events that you're sponsoring, things of that nature. There's a plethora, but there's different strategies, and they fall under different umbrellas.
Yeah, you've got to, like you said, it's getting the right message to the right person at the right time. The right time, that's the most important one. Obviously the person and the message, you have to have all that stuff in order, but the right time, that is why marketing budgets can't be cookie cutter, because you have to have a budget set aside, a portion of the budget designed for people who do not need a chiropractor today. And then you have to have a portion that is what I call the desperate, the people that need a chiropractor right now. That is a whole nother game, and that is a very, very, very specific type of advertising. You have to be in that field, because if you're not, one of your other chiropractors in your community, or far be it a medical institution, if somebody's dealing with something that a chiropractor can help naturally, and you do not intercept that pass on Google, they're going to go down the pharmaceutical route. And they're going to be getting injections, and they're going to be getting medications and stuff that they're going to be, addicted to and have problems with. And we don't want that, right? We want to help people. We don't want to hook people and keep them on this infinite loop of medicine, right? That's why I believe in chiropractic. If not, I'd work for a hospital, but I want to help doctors who find natural solutions for people's problems. I want to help connect those people to their community, because I have a passion for helping people heal naturally. And my only avenue for that right now is to become a chiropractor or to help chiropractors help people. And so that's what I'm doing here in the first place. And now I'm down this avenue of, how much did you spend on Facebook ads? Oh, and you didn't get a single appointment. Big surprise, because that's not what meta ads are designed for. They're not designed to get you patients. They're designed to help show awareness. A lot of people hear me say it's just a billboard. It's just, we're here. When you need a chiropractor, remember us, right? That's fine. There's a budget for that. It's a small budget. And you can't expect very many, if any, quality patients. And I'm going to tell you a couple things. There are marketing agencies out right now that are guaranteeing you patients. I guarantee you patients. What they're not telling you is they're paying people to book those appointments. That's why they're not showing up. Because they're not even in this country. They're not even in your area. They're just getting a couple dollars to fill out a form on your website or call and make an appointment, and they don't show up, right? That's why their area codes aren't lining up. That's why their information they're giving you doesn't seem legit. It's because they're not. They're not legit. I don't want to do that. I want to help people. So I got to get you qualified patients, right? And so you have to understand that you have to manage your expectations on where these leads are coming from, right? Getting inside of your community. That's quality leads you can't buy, right? Being a good neighbor, being the neighborhood, being the number one chiropractor in your area, getting the most reviews. If you need to get the most Google reviews out of anybody in your competitive market. If you're a chiropractor and rule number one, you've got to be the best one, right? That's the one everybody's going to want to go to. And you only have one way of doing that, and that's be the best chiropractor, right? Give them the most care. Have a system in place that shows consistency, right? If I'm going to refer you, then I'm referring based off of my experience. And if that experience isn't consistent, people aren't going to trust my word, because they didn't talk to me like that. Well, they didn't treat my case like that. They didn't do x-rays for me. They didn't do this for me. I got special treatment. They didn't, or it works the other way. My point is, you have to have a consistent practice. You have to be the Starbucks of chiropractic. Every person that walks in gets greeted the same. Every person that gets treated gets dedicated the same amount of time. You've got to have that system that is in place to where it's perfected and it's honest and it's trusted. That's how you get referrals, right? Because that's all I'm doing. All I'm saying is, and I don't sign up every chiropractor. I don't sign up every client. If I notice something in your experience, I don't want to refer people. I'm only looking to help good chiropractors help people, right? Mm-hmm. And so, that's one of the things with Aligned. When I started, reached out to you about getting to know you and understanding what Aligned is, what I found was consistency throughout certain practices where it's, okay, these people are converting more and they're retaining more and, they're growing. Like, what is the connection?
They're getting referrals.
They're getting referrals, right? Because I don't want, first of all, you shouldn't be getting 100% of your new patients from advertising, At best, it should be 80% and 20% advertising. That'd be my dream, right? Is where, let's say you're getting, 50 new patients and 80% of them are coming from referrals. We're doing a good job, right? because we're working together to build a clinic that people want to talk about. I'm getting you content. We're getting you things to share and people to post, and we're running these campaigns that are basically being shared by your friends and your family and your patients because they're a part of your clinic. You know, they're a part of that community.
The actual number, since you just throwing percentages out there, where you know you have a strong practice. It's an old stable measuring stick that gives you the stability of a practice. Now, I take that back. I mean, you've got to be up to, I'll just talk a revenue for a second. You've got to be in the $25,000 to $35,000 a month mark in today's world when you take your CVA and your PVA. I'm getting off track here a little bit, but if you're in those realms, you can judge yourself as to the strength of that practice. Off of what you were just saying with the percentages of new patients. If you're doing 30, 35,000 a month and you have the average PVA and CVA that I'm talking about, your new patients should be a minimum 50% coming through referral.
Yeah, at least.
And if it's not, there's smoke on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've been around. I don't see that very often outside of aligned chiropractors. I just don't. The clients that I have that aren't with aligned, it's just we need advertising should be to grow, to be expand, right? Your bills should be paid. Your life should be taken care of
through referral.
Yeah. Now you want a second location, you want to expand, you want to hire another doctor. Now you call me. Now let's get bigger, right? So, and that could be a process. A lot of people are struggling or whatever, and I help build them, but it's never rely on advertising and marketing to keep your clinic open.
I know you and I can talk.
Yeah.
We can talk all day about this stuff, but we only got so much time on any one show. So I want to make sure that we hit on leads and nurturing leads, but also one other component we mentioned earlier about getting the right message to the right person at the right time to fill the right need. But message, let's take 5 minutes and talk about the fact that it could be a different message, a different brand, a different message based on the demographic or the community. I remember you and I talking at some point, and you compared two different chiropractors, and you said you would not know that these two doctors were even in the same industry, yet they were identical as far as the industry, chiropractic, but one was in Middle Tennessee and one was in St. Pete, Florida. Talk about a little bit about that.
Everything that I do is custom from the ground up. I don't copy and paste anything because you can't do that. You can't. The messaging for people in Middle Tennessee is nowhere near the same messaging as the people in Bradenton, Florida, or Sarasota, or somewhere around that area. It's a whole nother demographic of person. You can do that state to state even, East Kentucky and West Kentucky. All of my clients, if I've learned anything, is that you can't get a cookie cutter package thing. You're going to have to understand the community. You're going to have to understand the needs. MTBI and dizziness, vertigo, that's going to be popular in some areas, right? And it's not going to be popular in other areas, right? So you have to understand what your specialty is, the need for it, and how to say it, right? Because throughout the whole nation, not everybody is going to describe vertigo the same way, right? If when it comes to my job of basically translating what people on Google that are searching and what you are offering, that rarely lines up. I got to think, okay, what are the symptoms and what are they going to be Googling for a remedy? And then I've got to make sure that that's implemented in your SEO, into your keywords and all this stuff, to where you are you're showing up when they're searching them. Because I'm telling you right now, they're not searching for the things that you think they're searching for. You know, they don't know the words. They didn't go to school to be a chiropractor, right? Another thing, everybody, all chiropractors, you can relate to this, right? Let's say, I know this is a weird analogy, but let's say you got a dent in your car, right? Are you going to Google different types of machines that fix dents in cars? Or are you going to look up body shop, right? I'm seeing all of these different treatment advertisements. They don't know the treatment. Why are you telling them the treatment, right? First of all, they need to be coming to your clinic asking, what do you recommend? You're the specialist. You're the doctor, right? So you got to make sure that the vocabulary that you're using, the messaging that you're using,
even the look,
the images you're using, they all have to be tailored to fit your area, right? You can't just take an ad that's nationwide and slap your logo in the corner and say, yep, I'm doing advertising. I'm doing marketing.
And just throw that money.
Yeah, that's all you're doing.
You're just throwing money at it.
Yeah. Like you said, 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water. You're in the 90% of the water, spending 100% of your budget.
Trying to find the 10%,
trying to find 10%.
the 10% of the fish.
Exactly.
Let's switch over to because I think chiropractors, I mean, obviously we're already on, it's everybody's favorite subject, yet it's a subject that is very vague in people's understanding what it is. I think we're uncovering some of those components here. But let's talk about leads, right? You know, everybody thinks a new patient lead is patient contacted me, booked an appointment. But how are we nurturing leads as a chiropractor in communities? Yeah, I know you're going to talk about soft leads like emails and texts, and
sure,
these are former patients or these are people that are following you. That is a soft lead, but so is also creating leads at events.
Yeah.
So let's try to take the last bit of the show and talk about that before we wrap it up.
Sure. So, you know, community events are huge, you know, being able to get involved with them, you know, finding different ones that are going on, happening, you know, being a pillar in your community is going to be a huge asset to you in the future. That's going to create lifelong leads. You know, as long as your office is open in that community, it's going to be there. You know, one type of lead that people disregard is the missed appointment. You know, what are you doing with that information? They just didn't show up and that's just the end of that conversation? No, we got to nurture that lead. We've got to have a campaign in place that goes back out to the contacts who booked appointments that didn't show up, or maybe they just came in for their first appointment and they can't. We've got to keep them in touch. We got to keep in contact with them, right? So when we've got all these different types of leads, you have to have different strategies to nurture all of them. And one of them is, again, we've got the people that missed appointments. We've got the people that were, you know, that came once or didn't, you know, stay or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then you got people that don't come anymore, right? They came in because of a car accident and we fixed their whiplash, never seen them again. Do you have a campaign in place for those people? Do you have a strategy on how to re-engage? Because it's, so what, you had a car accident. Okay, well, that's going to be a probably lifetime that you're going to need adjustments and treatment for, right? And in other instances and other injuries and stuff like that, are you the go-to? You know, I want to make it to where when it comes to natural relief for pain, chiropractors are getting all of the advertising dollars, all of the Google spend, all of the meta spend. When people are searching for these things, I want to be gearing them towards chiropractors, not traditional medicine or, you know, pharmaceutical especially. So when it comes to nurturing those leads, you've got to have, kind of like what you said, you know, it's the right person, right? Which a lead is a lead. So right person with the right message, right? The right message is the format, right? Is it a mailer? Is it an email? Is it a text? You know, is it Facebook? You know, are they connected to your Facebook? What are you posting on your Facebook, right? Is it just Happy Mother's Day from random chiropractor, right? Or is it something educational? You know, do you have a colicky baby? You know, are you struggling with insomnia? You know, are you different treatments that people don't understand that are attached to chiropractic, right? Like dizziness, brain fog is a big thing, you know, that people are, you know, looking and trying to find results for brain fog. It's like, have you found the connections between chiropractic and these things?
Nothing connects faster to a lead more than stories and authentic testimonials.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to take over the show because I could talk 30 minutes on this easily, but just make sure we're hitting that. I mean, posting stuff online and posting education.
Yeah.
There's some to that, but you're never going to get as much bang for your buck as you will with a story.
Yeah.
Like just taking your phone out in your office. Somebody just gave you like, man, I haven't slept like this for 5 years. I slept for 12 hours last night. Capturing that on your phone to say, would you say that for me? And that all of a sudden that becomes your post or your story. I mean, you get that consistently out there.
Yep.
That feeds the emotional component, that meets the need, you know, the right message at the right time to fill the right need. Well, that's the right message at the right time, filling the right
testimonials, reviews, all that. That's a referral. Mm-hmm. That is Brittany telling everybody in her network, this chiropractor is helping me sleep better. This chiropractor has helped me with my headaches, you know.
And when we say community events, I know I'm switching gears on you. You're going to have to take this and run with it, or you just contact this guy, right? This is what he does.
It's hard to
put it all into
one podcast.
Yeah, like one 30-minute podcast. But where was I going with this?
Community events.
Community events. When somebody thinks about a community event, they're thinking about either having to do a health talk, which, look, health talks are fantastic. All right, different ways to get in. There's steps to take. That's what Align does. Is like, how do you make these connections? How do you get these events booked? Then what is your presentation if you're going to do that? But some people think community events means that, oh, he wants me to do a spinal screening. No, not necessarily. But maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. As soon as you tell me, no, I've never done to do a spinal screening. Well, that's fine. Just take your map, draw a map like a town square, and create all these streets of how people get to your office. That's fine. You tell me I'm not interested in helping that person that I'm only going to meet at a spinal screening at a home and garden show. And the 5 people that could have walked down that street to your office this month, they ain't coming because your attitude and your willingness to not do spinal screenings. I'm not saying spinal screenings are my favorite thing to do. But to say that it's not a valid option in a street that you should keep open. But if you're going to say no, then draw that map out, go to that street, and then write road closed.
Yeah.
Because don't worry, no one else is coming down that street. And by the way, I bet you one of your competitors in your town is willing to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, honestly, that's a great place to start right there. Right now, just start that circle and write the name of your clinic in the middle of it. And make a line and put what avenue. How are people getting to your office?
How many? The record I remember was a good friend of mine, Dr. Garth, came up with 380. It was like 387 different ways somebody could find their way to his office. And guess what? He never had a lack of new patients.
Yeah.
And he wasn't having to do the package $500 Facebook ad.
You
nonsense.
know, when it comes to like my team, we've got some rules on my team, and one of those rules is what are we gonna do? You know, what are we gonna do to help our clients? Whatever it takes, right? And sometimes we're working and our clients aren't. You know, hey, bud, it's Easter. Okay, well, we're trying to get you new patients. Never mind. You know, and I'm not saying work all the time. I'm not saying everybody can do that. But what I'm saying is like, you know, my team is going to do every avenue we can find. You know, we're going to try to open up every single road we can find to get people connected to our clients. And I don't even know. I would love to know an average on how many chiropractic clinics, how many roads do they have? Because if it's more than a handful, it would surprise me. You know,
most offices don't.
Most offices.
But the ones that work on this and develop it.
Yeah.
And hey, you might not be able to come up with 380.
Yeah.
It might take you 10 years to build that road.
Yeah.
But if you're sitting here right now and you go through your new patient source stats for the last 3 to 6 months, and right now the vast majority of them come from like 2 or 3 sources, then let's work with a guy like this, or work with a line, and let's just open up 2 or 3 roads.
Yeah.
We don't have to open up
It
a
doesn't
whole
have to
system.
be expensive. It doesn't have to be time consuming. Okay? It can be very efficient and effective. That's the goal, right? Because we don't want it to be expensive, right? Nobody wants it to be expensive. Nobody wants anything to be expensive, right? We just want it to be.
And typically those community events aren't expensive.
No,
And
it's
spinal screenings aren't expensive.
and
Health
community
and
events. They're
talks.
different to everybody, right?
But I want to get to this point because I know we got to wrap this up. But spinal screenings are one. Health talks are one. But I love listening to you when you talk about, well, what is a community event is not just for the people I'm going to meet there, the patients I'm going to meet there. What is it?
Yeah, let's go local farmers market, local event, concert, anything that the town's coming to get. It's not just getting patients that are walking by. It's networking with other people who are at those booths, right? It might be somebody selling T-shirts, right? She knows somebody that needs a chiropractor, right? It might be the guy who's got the coffee food truck, right? He's got his little food truck. Well, he knows somebody that needs a chiropractor, right? And being able to cross-refer and send each other business, that's great for the community, and it's great for your clinic.
And it's critical to your clinic.
Honestly.
Because there's an old saying that says, never do you know what you say, think, or do will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Never do you know what you say, think, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. I got another one to add that. Never do you know who you know that may affect the lives of millions tomorrow.
Yeah.
So by not being at that community event, and you're trying to be the pillar of your community, and you're showing up at your office 5 minutes before you see your first patient. You're making sure you get your lunch hour. You're only working 3.5 days a week. And then you're not investing it all into your community, and you're trying to build it off of social media.
Yeah.
You are going to be in and out of practice. You're going to be one of those statistics where you're out in 3 to 5 years. And I'm not saying it's a losing model, but that's a burnout model.
It is, especially if you're doing it on your own.
Eventually, you're going to burn out.
Yeah, if you're going to go doing a community event and you don't know what messaging to put it out, what media to put it out on, what do you print, what do you give away? You don't know any of that stuff, or it's too time consuming for you. That's a burnout problem, right? It's going to be exhausting.
And then you don't have somebody like this right here that's not just he's looking at every vehicle possible and putting out good content. Like, what is a soft lead? A soft lead should be nurtured.
Yeah. Right?
So what kind of content? Are we going to do a podcast like this in our community? Are we going to do, YouTube videos, or, that's your forte, not mine. But the point is, we're going to get every base covered with the right message.
It takes a team.
At the right time. And we're going to make sure we're operating with that right budget. And then you have it, you combine a guy like this and a team like Aligned, and you have this system that builds the stress-free, referral-based practices, efficient, and then what you fell in love with way early before I ever even met you. You were like, man, who is this company?
Yeah.
This is crazy. Their retention, compliance, and the referrals made your job so much easier.
And I'm less to blame, because they want to know, it's like, well, these weren't qualified. I'm like, they were. What did you do with them?
What'd you do with them?
Where's all the fish? We caught all these fish for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know. Hey, any last words that you want to point about leads, nurturing leads, soft
You
leads.
you just got to take care of them. You've got to nurture your leads. You don't ever give up on a lead. If they booked an appointment, don't give up. If they're connected to your social media or through your mailing list, do not give up. You might just need to be perfecting your message and working on your timing, but don't give up on it. Keep it going.
Don't ever, because unless they've opted out, whether through your text or your emails.
There's an unsubscribe button. They don't have to follow you. You keep giving your messaging. You keep trying to educate them and get them in.
And then give timely, I'm not going to say offers, but like timely.
Have a strategy, a stimulant for them to take action. Yeah.
At the right time, right? So we're nurturing, and then
you give
and then we're casting the net.
Exactly.
Nurturing, cast the net.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Daniel, hope you'll come back.
Yeah, love to come back
because we can certainly
comment more subjects and topics. Well,
please do. Let us know what other topics you want to talk about. But marketing is always right at the top. Everybody they think their answer is more and more new patients.
Yeah.
And it might be. There are some
keeping
out there,
patients
but it's more about if you learned what would happen to your practice right now. Do your stats when you get done with this show. What would happen to your practice if you started retaining, closing, converting 8 out of every 10 that come in the door?
Yeah.
And what if we doubled or tripled your PVA? In other words, I'm not talking about doing crazy care plans and all that nonsense. I'm just talking about educating and having patient compliance to where your PVA goes from 14 to 28. What would happen? What if you have a PVA of 22? What would happen if it went to 44? And what that means is the patients just get it. And they stay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're going to see them 44 times in a year. It means they just stay with you year after year after year. What would happen to your practice if you had a guy like this expanding your, your net, right? Casting a bigger net and organized, had that, and then you started moving numbers like what I just described. What if your referrals doubled? What if your PVA doubled? Right?
Yeah.
You put those 3 combinations and you'll never burn out.
No.
Because I've never met a chiropractor that fell out of love with helping people. Yeah. I've only met chiropractors that went out of business.
That's the game. They want to help people. We want to help them help as many people as they possibly can.
But I have met chiropractors that went out of business because income and expense ran too close together for too long, or they just burned out because they're trying to.
It's exhausting.
They're wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
So, hey, definitely going to have you back. We'll dive into some more topics, folks. Certainly think that you probably got something out of this show, but we will look forward to connecting with you on the next Chiropractic Podcast. This is your podcast. We do this for chiropractic. Love and appreciate you. Talk to you next time.